Hey everyone, thanks for hanging out with us here today at the Nerd Talk Podcast, brought to you by thedigitalworm.com. I am the Digital Worm. My name is Matt. I'm here with my good buddy and co-host John. John, say hello.
What's going on, everybody?
So every week we pick 10 of the most interesting topics in nerd culture that have happened in the last week, and we just discuss and have a good time. And today is going to be no different. And today we're going to start off in Hollywood. We've reported on this movie before. Dune is getting a reboot, or however you want to call it, reimagining. I don't know what you want to call it, but anyway, there's a new Dune coming out, and we reported not too long ago that Dave Bautista has joined the cast, and now it looks like Oscar Isaac has signed on to star in this movie as well. I really want to keep reporting on this because every time I hear something about the movie, it's something good. Like it's another great actor or a producer or a director or just something. Like I'm not hearing anything negative, and the hype is just the bar is starting to get pretty high here with all of the acting talent that they're bringing in. John, what do you think about this?
I think that we're going to continue to see really good actors with this. People really like Dune. The thing that I'm most curious about is, and none of these articles seem to know the answer to this. I don't think that they've really talked about what the plot and the structure of these things are going to be. I'm not sure if this is actually a reboot of the original film or if this is actually an adaptation of the novels. And those are very different things. Really.
Yeah, I agree.
There's that movie did not come close to following at all. I mean, it was its own thing. A lot of that was due to the fact that it was basically produced and semi-directed by attorneys. They just were under contract to make a film, and so they made a film. But there's a lot of things that are in those books that you just don't see.
Right.
So it's really hard to know. Like, I'm excited regardless. I actually like David Lynch's Dune. I thought it was a good movie, but the book is a billion times better.
Oh yeah.
And so, this has got potential to be great, but in a couple different directions.
Yeah, I think the hype is real here. I think everyone is all about this movie, both the fans and the people who are coming on board to create it. Like, I think we're going to continue to see a lot of good things here, and my expectations are absurdly high right now, just right off the bat. I expect to see a very, very high quality film, and I think a lot of other fans do as well.
This dude is mostly known for being in is Ex Machina. Have you seen that? I
have not. I know it's on Netflix. I've never watched it, but he's also been in. I think he was in one of the Star Wars standalones as well.
I think that you get the best cross section of what he's capable of in. I'm a little surprised, actually, specifically that you have not seen that movie. I think it seems like something that you would have gotten around to. I definitely recommend it to anyone who likes anything that anyone who likes stories that ask the question of, when it comes to artificial intelligence, and ask the question of what's going to happen when we eventually go past that threshold.
I will get on it. I will try and watch it this evening, honestly. If you think it's something that I'll like, then yeah, I'll check it out.
On a level with, what is that movie called? I would put it on a level with Interstellar. You easily put it on the same level as Interstellar.
We've been reporting on what's going on in China a lot lately. Everything from Dr. He disappearing and likely no longer alive, to the social credit system, to uniforms that children are wearing that have really crazy GPS tracking in them. And right now, just pulled this article off TechCrunch this week, and the headline was, China's social credit system won't tell you what you can do right. And this is really just kind of an update on the ridiculous things that are happening over there, especially as far as the social credit system is concerned. It's affecting people's lives in a really horrible way, and they're trying to say that the citizens of China are all about it and they love it, and that can't possibly be true. That's got to be propaganda. Um, I mean, the fact that they have this system in place and it won't tell you what you can do right. I mean, first of all, the system in place is bonkers, but then the fact that you can't do anything right or they don't tell you what you can do right is also just beyond weird. And just they really do have ultimate control over their citizens. And what's even scarier is this system also applies to businesses and companies in China, and those companies are at the they have to deal with the same thing that the citizens have. John, what did you think about this article?
Well, there's a couple of different ways to look at this aspect of it. The article itself definitely is written with that blush of American paranoia that we all share as people from the U.S.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Of the assumption that if it's the government that they're trying to make our lives worse, and often that is not necessarily untrue. Realistically, I can think of a couple pretty good reasons not to really make the 100% transparent. One of which is, it stops the idea of virtue signaling. The people in the government of China want their people to be a certain type of person, but they want them to want to be that type of person. You see what I'm saying?
That's fair.
And part of that comes from the idea within China that nationalism is their religion. I think that it might be true that most Chinese, if not, or at least many Chinese, are more or less okay with the idea of this system because they're taught from birth nationalism is really the end all be all of everything. So it stops the ability to virtue signal through the system of just because it's the thing that's going to get you the most points. And also, I mean, realistically, if you show me a system, I'll show you a way to game it.
Well, yeah, I mean that's always going to be a thing.
That's a trait that's developed by people who play games.
Yeah,
you show me a system and I'll figure out a way to take advantage of it. It's something you get pretty good at if you stick with things, and this stops that. Very transparent about the things that will give you negative points, and I think that is much more important if you're going to live under a system like that. It's much more important to know the things that are going to stop you from being able to make it to your job and make your life worse than it is to know how to get those extra. So little Susie down the street, dad will let you go out and do your thing.
That's fair. Still, I mean, it's just
unfortunately, and this is where the American paranoia thing comes in. The lack of transparency theoretically could allow them to change the criteria with no warning, but of government that China has, they actually could just do that anyway.
Right.
That's just it. That's the totalitarian part of the Chinese government, is that literally they shape reality within their own borders.
Right. That's something I didn't take into account. Did not think about that when I was reading this article. That I mean, we're looking at it from our point of view. Like, we're not on the inside saying this, and the fact is the government can do pretty much whatever they want to at this point. But yeah, I definitely wanted to do an update on this social crediting system because
I enjoyed that we've been covering this.
It's fascinating from that sociological perspective for sure. I mean, it's kind of scary, but it's interesting.
It's definitely that.
Lyft is going to sue to block NYC's driver pay equity law. So what's going on right now is a lot of these ride-sharing drivers, after expenses, are not even hitting minimum wage. From what I read in this article, they're hitting right around $12 an hour after expenses. And New York City wants there to be a flat like floor for these drivers at 26.5 dollars an hour, which after expenses would put them just a hair over $17 an hour. And I believe the new minimum wage in New York City is $15 an hour. So I mean, anytime you're looking at a wage increase as far as minimums go, there's going to be pros and cons. It's going to affect the people who are using this service because rates are probably going to go up in New York City because of this. But these drivers deserve to have a living wage, and a lot of the corporate people who work for these companies are just banking super hard, just making millions of dollars. And so, there's pros and cons to everything. The people doing the work, the guys and women out there who are the grunts, who are doing all the driving, tipping is not mandatory. I always tip when I take a ride share. I always do the middle tip, whether it be $2-3, whatever, depending on how far the driver took me. Like if it's a local thing, it's only a 10-15 minute drive, then I usually tip $2-3, whatever. But if I have to take something from one town to another for whatever reason, I'll tip them like the max amount I can. But yeah, there's going to be consequences here, no matter what. No matter how if this goes through, we're gonna see people who are upset, and we're gonna see, probably gonna see more people wanting to drive. So there's going to be a higher saturation of ride-sharing drivers out there, and it could be a bit more expensive to use this service. John, what are your thoughts on this? I know we've talked before about some similar topics, but I'll let you go ahead and throw out some of your wisdom out here.
Well, so the whole, for one thing, no one is going to be surprised here that company wants to pay their people less. That's just what the companies are, for their own best interest and not for the best interest of their employees. I hate that that's true, but this is the it's important to note, at least for ride sharing, Lyft, as far as the actual driver is concerned, is an app. That's all it is. Same thing as for the rider. Lyft is just an app. Anytime you get into an Uber or a Lyft or whatever, if you look at the decals on those cars, because they require you put their decal on the car. Anytime you go and you see an Uber sticker, time you see a Lyft sticker as well. The only time you don't is because there are slightly different vehicle requirements for these services. The only time you don't is when a driver somehow qualifies for one of them and not the other. So the only difference between you taking an Uber and you taking a Lyft is whichever fee is better for you on that specific trip. You're going to get the same driver. You switch from app to app, you can get the same driver on two different apps at two different times. So this is just the way it works. So Lyft is not, I don't know if you heard that beeping, but you probably did. So Lyft is not trying to protect their people in any way. They're really only worried about their own bottom line. They don't give a shit about anything else. Right. That's what Lyft is doing. Uber, if you'll notice, is not part of this lawsuit. Uber is already paying their people a higher rate.
Really?
In most areas, Uber does a little better than Lyft. So Uber
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, the rates are different for all the different ride shares. That's why Lyft typically costs a little bit less depending on where you're going, is because they pay their people a fair amount less. I think that the main reason why drivers use both is because it's just the can vary, basically, because there are people who just like to use Uber and there's people who just like to use Lyft. So you kind of have to do both to be able to get as many people as possible.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I did not realize that Uber paid a little bit more, which is kind of changing my mind and kind of making Lyft look a little bit more like your typical dickhead corporation right now. And, to be able to fully comment on something like that, I feel like I need to do a bit more research, and we unfortunately don't have time for that.
My research is I talk to Uber drivers a lot because I'm in rideshare a ton,
Yeah.
and you come up with a lot of different ways to make small talk because they want to talk to you, like for whatever reason. It's really hard to have a silent rideshare ride.
Yeah.
They're not like cab drivers. You don't get those surly cab drivers, where they're just angry about life and they're just pissed off. So you actually have to have a conversation, which is a good thing. I've enjoyed some of the conversations I've had with some of these people have been really, really interesting, and it actually enhances the.
I took one at like 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday night, and me and this dude just talked about 80s TV shows for the entire ride.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean everything from like Matlock and In the Heat of the Night. I was shit faced, so whatever. But I love my 80s TV shows. So what can I say?
Same.
All right, so next up on the docket, we're going to talk about Facebook. Like, I try not to talk about Facebook too much on the show. They are kind of like the Donald Trump of corporations at this point, or just the general public loves to just kind of kick the shit out of them whenever they can. Not saying anything good or bad, just saying that that's what it is. Like, every day I look on the internet and Facebook is getting trolled or fucked with for one reason or another, and a lot of it is their own damn fault. But this one I decided was worth paying attention to, and worth talking about, and I think it's actual news. The headline, and this is another one from TechCrunch. It said, Facebook pays teens to install VPN that spies on them. Now, okay, so you want to give up your private information to a corporation, and they're paying you for it. Sure, that's fine. That's okay. What's not okay is when it's a fucking teenager. Like, that's not cool. And Facebook is definitely taking advantage of young people, and this isn't the first time they've done this kind of thing. They've been taking advantage of children, teenagers, and young adults for over a decade now, and this information's finally starting to come out. While at first, if you're an adult who is, I'd say, out of college, you're 23 or up, and you want to throw $20 to Facebook, or Facebook wants to throw you $20, and you are completely transparent with everything you're doing on your phone, sure, whatever. But they were paying users who were as young as 13 years old, and that's not fucking okay, in my opinion. John, what's your opinion on this?
I would like to know what the breakdown is on age of account users. Honestly, realistically, the like, there's a little clickbaity in my opinion, as far as like the ages and stuff goes. I mean, if it's like 10% people who are under 18, I don't think I give a shit, honestly, about that. I think what annoys me about this whole thing is, I mean, if you don't do or say anything interesting on Facebook, I'll post some well-known political views. Like, I'm never gonna message someone a secret on the messenger for Facebook, or really on my phone. Like, you shouldn't do that shit anyway. Like, you shouldn't do it. And realistically, even if they were just doing it passively and no one knew about it, no one was being compensated, I myself particularly are never going to get fucked over by this. So I don't really care on that point.
Well, yeah.
What I do think is fucking laughable. $20 a month, man. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? That's what Facebook values your private information at, and number two, that's what these people are valuing their personal information at. Shit, man. I don't get out of bed for less than $15 an hour. Let alone, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I thought that was a little ridiculous myself. But
completely ridiculous. That's a joke number.
Well, here's the thing. I blame the internet for that shit. Like, if you go anywhere online for how to make extra money in 2019 or whatever, you're going to find a bunch of random shit where you can save or make an extra $3 to $5 to $10 here and there. And, these people on the internet claim they save hundreds of dollars a month by, spending hours a day doing all this shit. It's ridiculous how much of these types of articles are out there. And so, yeah, dude, people are doing... I mean, have you ever heard of these survey websites? Like, people are doing a ridiculous amount of shit for very small amounts of money. Yes. So this did not surprise me at all.
I have a hard time believing people are really doing that. I've always kind of assumed that no one's actually doing that stuff.
Oh, people are doing it like a motherfucker. Believe it. It's real. I know people who've done it. I even tried to do it. I did that shit for about 20 minutes, and I was like, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever done in my entire life. I'm doing something else. Have you ever seen
the Amazon Turk? That is.
Is that the micro jobs thing?
It's transcribing Walmart receipts into like actual like searchable. You're tagging blood cells for potential negative consequences. It's called Amazon Mechanical Turk. For background, do you know what a Mechanical Turk is?
No.
Way back, I'm talking like I think 1400s, 1500s. There was these people. There were only a few of them. They would have, it was kind of like a traveling vaudeville kind of thing. Way before vaudeville, there would be like people who did music and stuff, and then there would be like sideshow type attractions. So it was like a carnival without the animals, and one of the sideshow attractions was called the Mechanical Turk, and the gimmick was be an empty chair, a table with a chessboard, and then Anakin style, like dummy style robot. Like, well, I say a robot. It's a dummy, basically, like a ventriloquist dummy, but like man-sized. And you would play chess versus what they called the Mechanical Turk, which they claimed was basically like a wooden computer. It was, and this is kind of ingenious and kind of fucked up all at once, was the table that the board was on wasn't really a table. It was actually a box. And inside the box was a midget controlling the dummy, and through mirrors was able to see the moves that you were making. So there was a midget under the box that was controlling the Turk that was beating you at chess. And people paid good money to try to best what they thought was, a very primeval computer. And Amazon's Mechanical Turk basically pays people to either click slides of blood cells to show where markers are for potential like danger, or transcribe receipts for companies like Walmart, Sam's Club, BJ's, Target, or do any number of like data collection thing that most people, including the people that are actually paying for these services, think are automated. It's these people who are basically, furiously clicking and typing to try to come up with like $2.50 an hour to.
That's incredibly sad. That it's sad that these things exist, and it's sad that these corporations, this is the second topic today. That is based. It's based around an American corporation taking advantage of hardworking American citizens, and I'm not okay with that, John. Like,
oh, definitely, you shouldn't be. No one should be. Actually, Matt, I just sent you a link if you want to check out the actual, like the ridiculousness that is this. You link for it through Messenger.
Okay.
It's completely absurd. I consider this to be a very similar type of thing, honestly.
Like, and it sucks because I love Amazon, but the way, and that's the problem with American companies, is that once people fall in love with them, they get away with doing some really fucked up things, especially as far as treatment of their employees.
Once they make enough money to buy a couple of politicians, it's all over.
Yeah, agreed. So fucking sad and disturbing. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic. John, we've talked about. I mean, it's been one of the things that we has really been a focus of this podcast since it started. Was talking about streaming services, where it's going. We've talked about Netflix a ton because we both love Netflix. We talked about DC Universe. Talked about Hulu, Disney Plus, AT&T. Last week we talked about Viacom buying Pluto TV, and now this week, I mean, we've talked before about how Apple is wanting to get into the streaming game, and it looks like their service is going to launch before Disney Plus or AT&T is able to get theirs off the ground. Um, I read one article. I don't remember if it was this one or another one, but they already bought up some rights at Sundance last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever that was. So I knew they were doing some original stuff. I knew they were looking to acquire some properties. And it looks like this is going to take off relatively soon, which is kind of what you almost expect to see from Apple at this point, right? They're pretty on the ball when they want to do something. They have to be, they have to stay ahead of the game. That's part of what has made them so successful. But it really surprised me to see that their service is going to launch this fast. John, what did you think?
Well, honestly, kind of waiting through this, I really didn't give a shit through most of this stuff. Like, just to me, it's all just more of the same.
Yeah, it is.
Except, and this is one of those situations that happens a lot. Is these articles, a lot of them feel like just kind of fluff. It's just the nature of reporting at this point. That's just how it is.
It is, and that's unfortunate.
There was one thing that actually did make me. Your silence tells me you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Your mic must have cut out there. I thought you were just building up like some whatchamacallit. When it's a silence and you're building up tension. I can't remember what that's called. It's got an actual phrase or word.
A pinter pause.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were doing. So I did not actually. Your mic must have cut out there. Sorry.
And they're doing a show based on Isaac Asimov's Foundation.
Yo, that's one of those things that I always heard about growing up, but I never actually read. Someone tried to argue with me once, and I couldn't really argue back because I didn't know much about it at the time, that George Lucas took a little bit of inspiration from the Foundation series when he was developing Star Wars. I don't know if that's a thing or not.
George Lucas stole so much material from so many different directions that it's really hard to tell what he didn't take from, to be really honest with you. That is just what it is, man. He stole a lot of things. Is it possible that he was inspired in some way? Asimov? It's absolutely possible. It's impossible. It's impossible to read, view, or listen to any science fiction in the past 60 years and there not be some echo of Isaac Asimov.
He did.
I think than anyone alive ever. I think he still has that. I think he still has that title. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked it up recently, but at least historically, he's been known as the person who both wrote and published the most science fiction of anyone in the entire world. Now, Foundation. So he's known for two different series. He's known for the robot series, which within the last 15 years or so, there was a Will Smith film called I, Robot,
right,
which mangled the tradition of that, and he's known for the Foundation books. There originally was a trilogy. I think in total he published 8 books on it, but there have been many other books that were published with the permission of his estate that have continued on. There's a lot of canonical to make a series about this, and this is very far reaching in the implications of things that can be done. The premise of Foundation is that it very much echoes the Roman Empire. It's the decline of the first galactic empire. Everybody knows the ship's going down. Everybody's, people are trying to control planets and to control star systems and try to make sure that certain ways of life are being preserved. And then you got warlords and you got dangerous shit. And so you got the end of this, and this is written in the 50s, by the way. And then you got this guy named Harry Seldon. What in the book is called a psychohistorian, and basically it means he deals with eons worth of history. We're in the far, far flung future here. We've conquered of the Milky Way galaxy at this point, and so as these things are going away, he's trying to find a way to preserve what he considers to be the best for the future. And so he creates something called the Foundation, which is kind of a brain trust / organization / paramilitary organization that will allow what he considers to be the best parts of civilization to survive into the future, and all the implications of that. And that's what these books are about. The first book is just called Foundation, and it is a group of 5 short stories that he published over the 50s, roughly, that show how these things started. It's extremely good. They're all really quick reads, and they're all really good for being really quick reads as well.
I'm gonna have to check that out. It's a series some people have been telling me I need to read for a long time, and I just haven't. So this headline said, GameStop halts pursuit of buyer, stock plummets over 25%. Now, the reason... All right, so this all started back over the summer. GameStop's board, they claim that no one is going to be able to get financing for the kind of deal that would make them happy to sell the company. It kind of sounds like bullshit to me a little bit. It really does. Like, these kinds of corporate deals happen on a very regular basis. So them pulling out of this kind of thing and saying that we don't think anybody's gonna be able to get the money to buy it for how much we want to sell it for, like, it's horseshit. I'm sorry, it just is. It's either horseshit or they're overvaluing their company. But what bothers me is just, I guess, the nostalgia of GameStop and what GameStop meant to me as a kid. And if you wanted a new game back in the day, you went to GameStop. If you needed a new controller, you went to GameStop. It's just where you went if you were a cool gamer nerd. And I think that's a big part. It's almost like the McDonald's of gaming, right? I guess that's a pretty good way to put it. And so it's sad to see the BS their board is throwing up right now, as well as the diving stock numbers, the fact that GameStop just isn't doing well at all. Like, they've been in the news. Their sales are just plummeting. I think it was their Q3 sales of this year was down like almost $500 million loss in the third quarter alone, which is pretty bad. It hurts me, John. It hurts me right in the feels. I don't know if I don't think this is really a John article, if you will. Didn't come across that way, but it was something I wanted to talk about and just throw it out there that I had a lot of love for GameStop. They will always have a special place in my heart, but things are not looking good for that company at the moment. John, I'll let you say anything if you would like to say anything.
To be real honest with you, man, I'm a little surprised to hear a lot of the things that you're saying right now. I didn't encounter GameStop until I was probably 18 or 19 when I was in college. It's not they just weren't in North Carolina, I guess. I don't know, but I did not grow up at all. We had other ways to get games, but I never even heard the name GameStop until college for sure. So I'm a little surprised that they were ubiquitous enough where you lived that would have been a thing.
I'm not talking about kid. I'm talking about like high school age. I still consider high schoolers kids.
Oh, sure, me too. But I mean, again, like I was like 18 or 19 before I ever saw one. But looking online right now, apparently that company's been around since '84. It originally was maybe not originally, but at one point it was part of Babbage's, which I am aware of. Neo Star Retail Group was huge in the mid '90s. There was a lot of different names that they went under. So they this I learned something today, and GameStop is not as I thought they were. To be honest with you, I feel like this is the nature of technology.
Yep, you've mentioned that kind of thing before. Yeah, that this is it's the kind of thing that things come and go, and you either
Blockbuster, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Blockbuster was ubiquitous in the '80s and the '90s, and I don't think they exist anymore at all as a company.
There is still one Blockbuster, I believe.
There's one Blockbuster.
I think there's one, and it's almost more of a museum than anything else. I highly doubt anybody actually rents movies from it. It's probably got a fucking red box sitting out front.
So that would make sense. But I mean, realistically, with Steam being what it is, and online ordering of things being what they are, I'm a little surprised that they have not tried to morph themselves as a company into more of a outlet to be able to host and to sell games. That way, that wouldn't help their employees, of course, as far as local stores go. But I'm always surprised every once in a while I'll hear of someone going to buy a physical copy of a game that clearly is already also a digital, or like GameStop or Walmart, to do so, when it feels that to me there's no reason to do anything other than digital transactions on these things.
I agree. And GameStop is not they didn't change with the times. They didn't change fast enough, and some other companies came out with some good ideas and were able to capitalize on the convenience that they offered, and GameStop either just didn't want to or wasn't aware that these things existed.
Right.
Another big seller for GameStop was their used stuff. Like, I know they sell used iPods, they sell used controllers and things like that. They have like a pretty big kind of barter system going on where you like turn in your old shit for store credit. Apparently that's what's been keeping their head slightly above water for the last several years.
Stuff like that, myself, I prefer to use local businesses for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Often the pricing is similar, and I would rather look a game store owner in the eye and know that the money I'm giving them or the stuff I'm trading to them is going to go towards their livelihood.
Absolutely.
I'm not real big on big corporations. Like here regionally within Southwest Virginia, we've got Super Game Station out in Radford, and that dude does a lot of work, and he does a lot of good things for gamers in the area, and that's pretty awesome there. But I'm sure that most regions have some corollary to someone like that that I'm hoping is thriving more than GameStops are. I'm hoping.
Yeah, let's hope so, man. I mean, gaming, as we've covered, is not going anywhere, and gaming is blowing up, and there's starting to become a lot of, it's getting to the point where there's a lot of money in gaming, and it's just who's going to do it the best, right? Like, who's going to provide the best quality of services and games and entertainment, everything from Twitch streamers to developers, of course, Sony, Microsoft, all those guys, all the gaming companies, whoever does it the best is going to probably be the company that makes the most money at the end of the day. And it's just a thing where GameStop is no longer one of those companies, which is sad in a lot of ways.
That's fair.
So moving on real quick here, this is just not something we're going to discuss heavily just something kind of cute and funny I found online, and I figured it was worth mentioning. This website offers beard boutiques for Valentine's Day. The website is firebox.com, and they are just little blossoms you can just stick right in your beard to impress your lover or Valentine, whoever that may be. And I think it's kind of a neat idea. I mean, probably not anything new. You can probably go to a florist and maybe put some real stuff in your beard. I don't know if that's a thing. I do not have a beard, and I don't really stick things on my face that don't belong there. John, you said you've stuck some things in your beard here and there. What do you suggest for Valentine's Day with a beard? Would you use this service, or would you rather do other things
Myself
with your beard?
No, I'm more of a roll a bone up in my beard kind of Neanderthal dude
Fair.
than I am anything else, to be honest with you. You gotta get that intimidation factor going and get a leg bone in there, and just go out on the town and see what's up. That's just where you need to be. The realistically, I think that you looking at the pictures on the article, I think you would be hard pressed for those things to stay where you put them.
Yeah, it seems like it's more of like a gag gift kind of gimmick thing.
Funny, I'll give you that. It's funny.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny too, and I honestly thought about you when I saw these things.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
So moving on to something that I find super exciting here. We've talked about Batwoman a little bit. You and I are both really into the CW DC shows, and this Batwoman show is looking like I think it's gonna be the next big thing as far as the CW goes. I think it's gonna probably next level. I have not watched Supergirl. Do you watch Supergirl?
Oh yeah, dude, I love Supergirl. I always like most shows with me. I wait until the season is over and it goes on Netflix so I can watch at my leisure. But I don't miss an episode. I love the show.
Really?
Yeah, Supergirl's amazing. She is everything I don't like about Superman. Supergirl is a great fucking hero. The lady who plays Supergirl is doing a great fucking job. The casting's on point. The show is very, very good. All about empowerment. It's extremely well done. I can't say no good things about it. I'm really looking forward to Batwoman. I think this is going to be really well done as well.
I guess maybe I'm gonna have to go back and watch this show.
At some point, did you give it a try, or?
I watched the first 2-3 episodes, and it just didn't catch me where the other CW shows caught me, I guess. I was a big fan of the Supergirl movie in the 80s as a kid, and I just didn't get that same feeling for whatever reason.
She's in the show.
Is she?
Oh yeah, dude.
Maybe I need to watch this show again. I think maybe I'll have to give it another shot at some point.
Dean Cain's in the show.
What? Get out of here.
I'm dead fucking serious. Oh yeah.
I was a big fan of that show as a kid too.
That show was great, dude. You kidding me?
So
you need to give it like 6 episodes.
I apparently need to go back and watch the show again. But
well, I mean, you know as well as anybody, any sci-fi show, you got to give them 5 or 6 episodes, because the first couple, it used to be back in the day, you had to give them a season and a half, because the first season they never knew what the fuck they were doing. These days they've gotten it down enough with sci-fi shows that it takes them 3 or 4 episodes to get their footing. So it's gotten better. But realistically, you can't judge a sci-fi show by the first couple of episodes, man.
The show Deadly Class on Sci-Fi Network got me the very first episode, probably within the first 10 minutes.
I'm looking forward to that season being done so I can watch the entirety of that as well. Did you see that Happy is on Netflix now?
I've never watched Happy.
Do you know what it is?
Nope, not really.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet, but it's on my list. It's probably the next thing I watch when I finally let myself finish The Punisher. So I'm not letting myself finish it yet. because we're almost out of content with the Marvel Knights universe. But the premise of Happy is there's a cop, and it's played by Christopher Maloney. He's an amazing actor who's been wasting himself over SVU for the past 20 goddamn years, just like every other actor on that fucking show. They're all amazing. They're all wasting their time.
Well, everybody's got to eat.
Dude, he is leading role material for sure. This guy is very good dramatic actor, very good comedic actor. His range is ridiculous. He's an awesome fucking dude, and he could do much better than what he's doing. Fuck Law and Order, by the way. But so he plays a fucking murder cop in fucking New York City, and it allows him to see this weird ass animated unicorn mutant thing called Happy that's trying to help him murder, or actually I believe it's a series of murders. So he's the only person that can see and interact with this thing, and it's just fucking his life up. And the show looks amazing.
It kind of sounds like a science fiction version of a Dexter sequel.
Fred, if you ever saw that movie back in the 80s.
I did not.
Great one. That's a great one. The premise is this chick's imaginary friend from when she was a kid.
Oh, yes, I did. Was that Winona Ryder?
Yep, sure fucking was.
All right. We're thinking about the same movie. Yeah, and he starts fucking with her life. Yeah. Okay. All right. So enough nerding out here. Let's get back on topic. Goddamn.
No such thing.
We just, when we get started on shows, we just we just go on these random ass tangents. It's so funny.
I will mention one more thing about Happy, and then I'll shut the fuck up about it. It was created by Grant Morrison.
Oh, right.
He's an extremely good comic book writer. Being insane.
Apparently, being a comic book writer is where it's at right now. Like, if you're a quality comic book creator, you have potential to make a shit ton of money and really make a name for yourself.
Yeah, people who make movies and shows are finally starting to realize how good the people who write these things are. You know, they're 30, 40, 50 years late on that, realistically. The amount of things that could exist now but don't because of, you know, them being late on that. It's kind of a bummer, but I'm glad we're getting into it.
I always felt like I would be great with the stories for comic books if I just knew someone who was an artist. It's unfortunate I cannot do both. I mean, it would all be stick figures and shit, but
yeah, I can't do it myself, man. I hear you.
So Batwoman rather, coming to the CW, they've already ordered the pilot, and things are looking good as far as this casting goes. It looks like Batwing is going to be in here, and that's going to be the Luke Fox version. And I'm assuming her love interest is going to be Sophie Moore. And in the comics, I did a little bit of research on Sophie Moore. Apparently, she wasn't in the comics often. Is that right? Like, it looked like she was just kind of an ex-girlfriend that wasn't really...
She's a big character.
She is? Okay.
She's but these shows have been very good about bringing those kind of more to the forefront. So I think there's some potential there.
Now, if memory serves, then there's a lot of real awkwardness between these characters because they both care about each other quite a bit. But, you know, she's like, one of them's like active duty military, the other one's ex-military, got kicked out for being gay. And there's still like a lot of emotion there between those two characters in the comics. Is that correct? Do I remember that right?
I mean, it's likely to be a source of tension in the show,
which is interesting. I feel like that's going to bring an interesting dynamic to it.
That's any situation in reality where you're close to an ex. Like that's just the reality of it coming through.
Sure.
You know?
So it looks like Sophie Moore is going to be played by Megan Tandy, who was in Teen Wolf. Never really watched that show, so I don't really recognize the name.
Who that person is, but I'm not really I would not expect myself to realistically. Teen shows are kind of not my purview.
Right, but the thing is, CW has been on point with their casting decisions for these shows. So I'm gonna go
Absolutely.
ahead and just like be like, hey, whoever you guys pick, I'm sure they're gonna be great, and I'm just riding with it. But what's interest to me is the characters themselves that they're going to be bringing into the show. And Nicole Kang from which is on Netflix, which I have not watched, is going to play Mary Hamilton. And Mary Hamilton is her stepsister, right?
No clue.
Oh, were you not a huge Batwoman nerd?
I mean, there's not been a lot of content, man. Like there's not been a whole lot of content. There's not a lot of Batwoman comics.
Really?
She's not compared to any of these other characters.
You want to go into that for a second? Like, what's like? I always thought that Batwoman had her own book and has had her own book for decades, or is that Batgirl maybe?
Had her own book a few times, but it's not like there's never going to be a Batwoman issue 300. This is not what it is.
So the team's going to have to be pretty creative here.
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing not to be hampered by so much
Canon?
history. I think that's one of the reasons why they're bringing this in. I mean, also it's a way to kind of acknowledge Batman's existence without having to do a Batman show, which I think is very good. An example of how little Batwoman has had, for what I can tell, in 594 comics in the history of the existence of that character. That might seem a lot to some people, but it's really far from being a lot. We're in a world where Action Comics has gone over 1,000 issues, is either about to or has recently gone over 1,000 issues. This is a very, very small number of appearances for a character that's about to get their own television show.
My mind is just completely and totally blown right now. I did not realize that the content was lacking on that kind of level. But like I said, I think it's going to force the creators to be super creative, and they're going to be able to do some things that maybe these other comic book hero shows have not been able to do. So,
well, let me give you an example.
Sure.
Barry Allen, just the character Barry Allen. That's not inclusive of all the flashes.
Right. There's been
according to ComicVine.com, which is a very good wiki type source for comic book minutia. It's extremely well done. It's very well maintained. It's kind of crazy how much you can get off of it. According to them, Barry Allen has appeared in 3,380 comic book issues.
Wow.
That's the difference of exposure, and that's the difference of canonical data we have between those two characters.
Yeah,
so that's a good thing, because if there's less appearances, there's less room for pedantic assholes to say, well, that's not how it's supposed to go.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that near as much. So that's actually, I think this is a very much a net positive, and I'm looking forward to where we're going to be going with this.
This is going to be one of those CW shows where I'm going to struggle to wait for it to hit Netflix. Sometimes I'm okay with it. I'm just like, man, whatever, I'll catch it on Netflix. But I'm really, really excited about this one, John. It's pretty rare for me to get antsy about a TV show, but the 100 does that as well. I don't know if you're a 100 fan or not. But waiting for that show
it's really good. I really, really like that show.
Waiting for that show to hit Netflix every year just drives me fucking bonkers.
There was a season where I actually, because CW does the day after they broadcast their stuff, you can go on their page and stream.
Right.
And there was a season, I think it was 2 seasons ago, that I watched Supergirl and The Flash and Heroes. And I was just curious if I could still do it, because it's been so long since I've watched television in a traditional manner.
Right.
It's been so long since it's been just, Netflix and Amazon Prime and other means of getting seasons of things at my own leisure. And I'll be honest with you, man, that was a tough couple of months content wise.
Yeah.
Weird.
I bet.
That being said, for Batwoman, I'm honestly considering doing the same thing for that. It's very possible. One thing that I did do that with recently, actually, I take that back. There's been one more thing I've done that with, and I don't regret it at all, was the first season of American Gods. I got those as they came out. Cost like $2 a piece on Amazon.
Jesus.
And that was super fucking worth it.
I actually I watched the first season of that through Amazon. I did the Prime Video like free trial.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I did was go look up American Gods and watch that first season in like a day. I mean, I consumed a ridiculous amount of content there.
It's probably one of the top 3 shows of all time, in my opinion, and they're only one season in. The new season starts about a month and a half from now. By the way,
this show is very, very good. I was so upset when it ended. I was just like, I want more.
Well, they are 1/3 of the way through the book. They're intending to do 3 seasons. They are 1/3 of the way through the book right now, so they're on pace to do everything in the order and direction that they are doing, and the content that has been added. And all with the approval of Neil Gaiman. So I have zero at all, which is not something I get to say very often.
I wonder how he's doing these days.
Shit, man, I'm seeing him. He posts stuff all the time on social media. The things he's doing, he is super fucking busy. Apparently, he's very close to publishing a sequel to Neverwhere, which is one of the first novels that he published. Really good story.
I just wanted to I'm glad he's finally making decent money. No authors and artists, especially back in the 80s, were making jack shit.
I don't think he's hurting these days. That's for sure.
It's according to Celebrity Net Worth, he's doing okay, which is good. That makes me happy.
Net worth? What the fuck is that?
Your overall net worth? You've never heard of net worth?
No, I thought maybe the way you said that, it sounds like there's like a website you just went to that's called that or something.
Yeah, celebritynetworth.com.
So it really is a thing. I know what a net worth means. I'm not a fucking moron.
There's like half a dozen of these fucking websites, John. You've never heard of them? They all have different names. Yeah.
No, I have not. That's completely. How do you even? I don't even want to know how they calculate.
It's all guesstimation. Like none of it's like 100% accurate. It's all just guesstimating.
I mean, realistically, it's none of my fucking business what these people make. I always hope that the ones that I like are doing well, and the ones that I'm ambivalent about. And every once in a while, there'll be one that I just want to fall down a well, but they never seem to. So.
No, I mean, I'm curious enough to where I'll go look it up, and if it looks like they're doing really well, it makes me happy. It gives me a little bit of hope for the world. But then I see something on the internet that just, crushes my soul once again.
Yeah, usually something I send you, probably.
Probably, yeah. So our next topic of the day, DeepMind AI AlphaStar goes 10-1 against top StarCraft 2 pros. This bothers me a lot. We have a mutual friend who is really big into StarCraft. I don't know if he still plays. He's a pretty busy guy. Tim. I don't know if you remember Tim being hardcore into StarCraft.
Yeah, I actually sent him this link.
What did he say?
Yeah, he's super busy. I'll see him later on today. I'll ask him what he thinks.
To me, this is really dangerous in the world of esports because, there's a lot of money on the line at this point. And if these companies who are posting up this money, what's to stop them from making essentially a fake account using AI to win a tournament and keeping the money that they posted up to pay out to players? Now, of course, you can avoid that by forcing players to show up and play in person. So that's
Well, that's
one
what
way.
these big tournaments do, especially for StarCraft. Big StarCraft tournaments are done in person.
Yeah, and same thing with like Call of Duty, Overwatch, stuff like that. But sometimes,
Yeah.
but some tournaments,
That's not changing anytime soon. Like that's how that's going to be. The thing that concerns me about this are the military applications.
oh Jesus Christ, you're talking about like some Orson Scott Card shit here, right? I mean, more or less.
I mean, realistically, you can't help but assume that this is already happening. If the public sector is doing this on this level, the private sector is always a couple years ahead of that.
Usually,
Realistically,
I
far from that.
I hadn't even thought that far. My mind had not gone into that direction. But that's pretty scary, John. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, I'm here to you from having good dreams. That's for sure.
So what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking? Like, just in general, I'm curious.
Well, it's just the time lapse aspect of it is you can run years and years and years worth of simulations on different types of attacks and potential responses in days and weeks. Like you can read the potential for mathematic projections of casualties and success and failure rates. Just so different. It's not even close to being. Being scary?
Do you think this kind of artificial intelligence combined with gaming is like the next stage of war games for soldiers and army recruitment?
Sure,
and
they're
stuff
already
like that?
doing it that way. I'm positive they're already doing it that way. It's impossible for that not to already be the case.
I've wondered the same thing, but on the other hand of that, I mean, you look at your average Call of Duty players. Sure, they might be able to snipe a motherfucker from 400 yards in game, but in real life, they'll never be able to pull the trigger. So
yeah, unless they think they're playing a game.
Okay, so you are making an Orson Scott Card reference here.
I'm not making an Orson Scott Card reference. I'm talking about the potential future for the next 20 years of warfare. But realistically, not even that part of it. Not even that part of it. Just the fact of.
Well, that's exactly what happened in Ender's Game. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
I get what you're saying. When I was like 13.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying on that, but the next logical step of that is not machines with human pilots who think they're playing video games. The next logical step is controlling other machines who are pulling triggers because the algorithm tells them to.
Right. That's really interesting. I wonder if that's real.
True drones. We call these human driven drones, but that's not really what a drone is. We're talking about mechanical machinery being driven and commanded by. And this is where we're going. Now, the flip side of the terrifying things we're talking about here is the potential medical uses. Because you can do years and years worth of time lapse in a very short period of time. So they could, if they wanted to, like save the world or something, they could.
That's ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous, John. Let's keep it realistic here.
They could program these things to look into potential ways to treat cancer and how cancer cells would react over a long period of time to certain potential, theoretical cures.
I think that would be amazing.
The thing they could do. Do I think that we're going to go in that direction? It's certainly possible.
Fair.
Maybe we can use it to figure out how the fuck Keith Richards is still alive.
Oh, I mean, we already know the answer to that one. That's just rock star metabolism, bro. I mean, if you do enough drugs and you play enough rock and roll, you become immortal.
Apparently so.
So, our last topic of the day, pretty quick one here. It looks like Aquaman 2 is already in the works. For those of you who are unaware, Aquaman has officially gone over $1 billion in revenue. Pretty sick. The movie deserves it 100%. Movie's a really, really good time. For those of you who have not seen it, John, I'm talking to you because I think at $1 billion worth of revenue, you are probably the only person who has not seen it.
That may well be. I'll get around to it when I can get it digitally at my home.
But the DC Warner Brothers, Time Warner, whatever you want to call them, they're already wanting Aquaman 2. The only issue is James Wan doesn't want to direct it until he sees the script and approves it. It's got to be something he really wants to do before he will sign on for it. And I really can't hate him for that. I feel like Jason Momoa is probably going to sign on to whatever just because he enjoys playing the character. But I'm not, DC. I feel like DC is never sure what direction they want to go in as far as their movies, which seems weird because their animated movies always seem so laser focused and so good. It's only recently that DC has been coming out with high quality films. Well, let's not. I don't want to say it like that. I need to retract that statement. It's only recently that they've been doing this on a regular basis. DC has definitely put out some bad live action movies. I hope we get to see a second Aquaman. I think James Wan did a great job. I thought the entire cast did a great job. The visuals were absolutely stunning. When I was watching Aquaman, I was like, holy shit, I have not seen a movie of this visual quality since I saw Doctor Strange. It's on that level. Like, it's different, but it's on that level. So, yes, I want more Aquaman. I hope they get it, and I hope James Wan signs on to direct the sequel. John, I don't know if you have anything you want to add here or any speculation or anything you'd like to say about DC films in general, but now would be a great time to do so.
I mean, realistically, this is just a fucking power play. This dude's gonna direct the fucking movie. He's just making sure that he has the amount of control he wants. It's fucking ridiculous that anyone would even post an article that says what this says. It's clickbaity as fuck. Realistically, there's 0% unless this dude dies suddenly, or like,
well, he's a pretty busy guy in all honesty.
Technology on the planet goes away and movies are gone forever. Those are only ways that this movie doesn't get made. Those are the only ways that he's not the dude that's going to be the fucking director's seat.
I think
it's ridiculous to assume anything otherwise. I think everybody else likes money.
If he just said, "No, I'm not going to do it," Momoa would just show up with like a 6-pack and talk him into it because he's that kind of guy, right?
There is a 0% chance that this is not going to happen and he's not going to be the fucking director.
Well, here's the thing with how busy this guy is. He has 7 producer credits for movies that haven't even been released yet. Anywhere between completed, post-production, filming, and announced. As far as writing credits go, he has 2. 1 in post-production, 1 announced. Director credits, just 1. But still, that's a pretty busy guy, right?
It's possible. Realistically, producer credit can mean from helping to run the whole production to, hey, we need this dude's name on this so that someone will give us funding. So realistically, it's just you're getting paid for your name, especially when you're in a position like this dude is. I mean, this dude is pretty golden right now. So anything his name's on is going to be have a better chance.
I've always wondered exactly what a producer does. Because it has always seemed like it could mean probably a dozen or even more different things. But they always seem like they're the ones with the money.
Yeah, that's the point of producers for sure.
All right. Do you want to add anything else here before we wrap the show up?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with the Nerd Talk podcast today. I'm Matt. This is my co-host John, and our show is brought to you by thedigitalworm.com. We will see you next week with 10 new topics, and we will discuss them. We will have a good time just like we did this week and the weeks prior to this. So you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday. Take care.